Hi friends, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is one that I make with a very heavy heart, but it's something that has to be done. Before I get into the video or the nitty-gritty of it all, I want to take a moment to say a huge thank you and a huge shout out to the family members that reached out to me following me sharing my story about being molested by my uncle under the noses of all my immediate family members. I want to thank you for your compassion. I want to thank you for your kindness. I just want to thank you for reaching out. I want to say thank you. I want to acknowledge you and all that. So with that out of the way, I want to first say that this is why victims of abuse don't speak out. This is why victims of abuse stay silent, because there's a lot of internal bullying. Like the bully is in the house, the call is coming from inside the house, and that is the problem. And while I'm in pain, okay, first of all, number one, I'm not going to cry in the video. I might have a good and proper cry after I finish recording, but for now, I'm going to stay composed because that is what will help get the message across. And before someone comes after me for exposing this person, I just want to say that I'm the one who has had to carry this trauma for the last 20 years. I'm the one who has been crying, who cried consistently for 10 years after being abused. I'm the one who was disgusted living in my own skin for something that was not my fault. So if you're going to have anything to say, please just consider that first. Second of all, when I saw this message, I've actually been crying since I posted that video, because it's like when my family members started reaching out to say like, oh my god, I didn't know this was happening, I'm so sorry, this was wrong. All those feelings that I had as a 5-year-old, as a 9-year-old, they just came boiling up to the surface, and I've literally been crying on and off since that video went live, since my family members were reaching out and they were like, oh my god, this is so disgusting, I can't believe we were living with a molester in the house. Like, oh god, I'm not going to cry. Maybe after this video, but for now I'm not going to cry. It just brought all those feelings up to the surface. It made my experience feel validated. My inner child felt really heard and seen by the people who matter, which is my family, and which is why the whole experience was really upsetting for me. Anyway, so I have to say that it's with a very heavy heart that I tackle this topic today, but it is something that I must do. It's painful for me, but I'm going to use that pain to teach, and I'm going to use that pain to help someone out there. If this video can literally save one victim of abuse, then it's worth it. I don't need it to help 2 people. If it can help one single victim of abuse, then it's totally worth it. This is Editing Lavender from the future, and I just wanted to interject and just give this particular family member her flowers. This particular family member actually has a degree in psychology, and she graduated from one of the best universities in Kenya, and she almost graduated with second upper honors. This family member also works in NGO. She works in a very special sector in NGO called protection. So you might be wondering, protection of what? From who? Protection of women and children in vulnerable situations. And one of the things that falls squarely in her docket is protecting women and children against abuse. So it's really, really funny that this would be the family member to come and bully me, that this would be the family member to use her credentials, her degree in psychology, her 15 plus years of experience in protection, to come and silence me. And I know that this happens in many, many, many family setups. So I just wanted to say that it is very disappointing to have the person who would want to gag me, bully me, shame me, be a degree holder, be a woman who works in protection, and for her to choose to use her credentials to silence me. I think that's really sad. I think that's really disappointing. And with that out of the way, we are going to get into this video. It's going to be really upsetting, but it's going to be really informative, and I'm hoping that I can help at least one victim of abuse, because this is why victims of abuse don't speak out, because of emotional manipulation, because of isolation, because of gaslighting, because of being bullied in the house, because of what else are the tactics that are used, because of what? Informative manipulation. Like, I know this information about you, and if you speak up, I'm going to tell people. And so we're going to look at all of them. We're going to go through the text at hand, and we're going to go through every single one of them. I'm going to read them out loud to you, and we're going to analyze line by line what tactic that narcissistic family members use to keep the victims of abuse silent. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I'm going to pop the the very disturbing messages up on the screen because I want us to read them together. I want us to learn together. So first, I'm going to read them out loud, and then we are going to look at the tactics that narcissistic family members use to keep victims of abuse silent. So, okay, here we go. So we're going to call this relative Jane. All right, so this is what she had to say. Hello everyone, please see this video which is public. So I am sharing this so that you see it first instead of your friends and networks sharing it. Then she linked my video where I went on to talk about my experience being molested as a child. Then she went on to say, Mom, we thank God the Holy Spirit led you to it, and personally I appreciate you for sharing it with me. May the Holy Spirit reveal everything under the sun that our enemies do not think they can shame us. Mom, I personally foresaw this in 2020 and told you about it, and you ignored me, but now it is open. So does that mean that she knew that I was being abused? Question mark. Personally, I no longer associate with Lavender. If you didn't know, that's my name. My name is Lavender. So personally, I no longer associate with Lavender in any shape or form and do not recognize her as a member of my family. I cannot contribute to educating and supporting a person who has decided to join my enemy's camp. I apologize for the hot temper. I'm very upset. So in these messages, we see common tactics that narcissistic family members use to keep the victims of abuse silent. In the first text, we see that we see a display of something called triangulation. Now, I know all the things that I'm talking about might sound strange and unfamiliar to some of you, but don't you worry. In the next segment, we are going to look at every single one of these, and we're going to talk about what they mean, and we'll see how they are displayed, as well as additional examples to help you identify them when they are being used against you to silence you from speaking up about your abuse. Now, the next three messages, we see emotional manipulation and gaslighting. Then after that, we see emotional manipulation and isolation. So you can see here, she says that she no longer recognizes me as a member of her family. So that is a clear display of isolation, in the hopes that the other family members will join her and say that they also no longer want to associate with me, although that backfired in her face. Then we are going to look at the following text of thread that came after some of the other family members replied to her. So she went on to say that, Mimi, I've said my piece and position. I will never condone my parents being dragged through the mud for anything, including selfish reasons. So you can see here, she's trying to undermine the victim's experience, and she's trying to criticize the victim so that the victim is seen as an unworthy source of information. So here she says, including selfish reasons, being open about my abuse is a selfish thing to do. Then she says that, in fact, I'm officially done. That is emotional manipulation and isolation. And then finally, she says that, everyone here, please wait for me to contact you. Do not contact me. And that is the silent treatment. So now that we have read, now that I read them out loud, they're kind of funny. Now that we have read these narcissist messages, we are going to move into the next segment where we look at all the tactics. Now, this list is by no means exhaustive, and I will link it below for anyone who is interested in checking this out for themselves, in anyone who wants to follow up on the sources of information. If you want to check out the sources and read more for yourself, I will avail all this information and all the sources in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's move into the next segment, which is tactics employed by narcissistic family members to keep victims of abuse silent. I'm going to read out the article that I found, and so you'll excuse me if it sounds a bit lectury. So narcissistic family members may use various tactics to silence the victims of abuse, particularly in situations where the victims of abuse are being abused by another family member, like a father or an uncle. These tactics often stem from a desire for control and can lead to emotional neglect and confusion for the victim. So here are some of their common methods. Number one, the silent treatment. Narcissistic family members frequently employ the silent treatment as a means of punishment and control. By withdrawing communication, they create an environment of emotional distress in an attempt to make the victim feel abandoned and worthless. This tactic is particularly damaging as it prevents open discussions about issues, leaving the victim of abuse feeling isolated and desperate for the family member's approval. The second tactic that narcissistic family members use to keep the victims of abuse silent is gaslighting. Gaslighting is another prevalent tactic where the family member distorts reality to make the victim of abuse doubt their perception and feelings. For example, if a victim of abuse expresses fear or discomfort regarding the perpetrator's behavior, the narcissistic family member might dismiss their feelings, saying they are overreacting or imagining things. This manipulation can lead to confusion and a lack of trust in one's own emotions. The third tactic that narcissistic family members use to keep the victim of abuse silent is emotional manipulation, which we have seen throughout the messages I just shared. Narcissistic family members often use guilt, fear, and obligation to manipulate the victim into silence. They may threaten emotional abandonment, which we have seen, or imply that speaking out about abuse would lead to family dysfunction or shame. Oh my god, it's script. Like, I'm just going to pop up the what do you call it? I'm going to pop up the message, and we're going to just go through the emotional manipulation where she said something about her parents' name being dragged through the mud. Narcissistic family members often use guilt, fear, and obligation to manipulate the victim into silence. They may threaten emotional abandonment or imply that speaking out about abuse would lead to family dysfunction or shame. As we can see here, emotional manipulation is being employed in full force, making it about the victim dragging the family's name through the mud, deflecting the attention from being the fact that the victim was being abused and shining the light on the fact that the family's name is being dragged through the mud. Guys, this is very common. I feel like especially in Africa and in Asia where we're more collectivist, but honestly, I feel like this cuts across the board, no matter where you are. This is emotional manipulation is very, very rampant. And I would argue is the number one tool that is used by narcissistic family members to keep the victim of abuse silent. The other tactic used to keep the victim of abuse silent is called triangulation. Triangulation is what? Let's find out. Narcissistic family members might involve other family members in conflict. As we saw, she took the conversation to the family group in the hope that all the family members would gang up against me and isolate me. So that was her goal, I'm sure. So she says, it says here that narcissistic family members might involve other family members in conflict to create division and further isolate the victim of abuse. By pitting the victim of abuse against other family members or comparing them unfavorably, they can maintain control over the victim's emotions and prevent them from speaking up against their abuser. Oh my god, script nile moja. Do we see that being applied here in full effect? I'll let you be the judge. The fifth tool that narcissistic family members use to keep the victims of abuse silent is isolation. To maintain control, narcissists often isolate the victims from friends and family. This isolation can be achieved through manipulation or by spreading lies about the victim to others, making them appear unstable or untrustworthy. And we can see here, she brings up something from 2020. I don't know what that was about, but we can see that it's being brought up here to make the victim, which is me, Lavender, to be unstable and untrustworthy. By cutting off support systems, narcissists ensure that the victims feel dependent on them. All right, next, another tool that narcissistic family members use to silence victims of abuse is verbal aggression and criticism. These family members may resort to verbal aggression, belittling the victim, or using demeaning language to undermine the self-esteem of the victim. This constant criticism can lead to feeling inadequate, making it difficult for the victim of abuse to assert themselves or speak out against abuse they witness or experience. The last thing we're going to look at, I'm definitely going to link this in the description box below this article. If you want to review it for yourself, it's going to be available to you, to everybody actually. So you can click it in the link below. The list itself has 9, but I feel like the video is getting too long. So we're just going to cover one more, and then I will leave the rest in the description bar if you want to read it for yourself. So the last tactic we'll look at in this list is using personal information against the victim. Narcissists often exploit sensitive information shared in trust to manipulate or intimidate their victim's father. For instance, they might threaten to reveal personal secrets if the victim does not comply with their demands. So then, these messages are hurtful. I'm not going to front you. Like, I was really, really upset. In fact, the day on, I think it was Friday evening, when I saw the messages in the family group chat, I saw the messages, I was really hurt. I cried for like 2 hours. And then I took some time to meditate on that pain. I took the time to realize that I can't stop bad things from happening to me. I can't. Bad things will happen and I can't control it. But what I can control is what I do after the bad thing has happened. So this family member, she's disowned me. So I guess she's an ex-family member. So this ex-family member wanted to undermine me, wanted to continue to inflict pain on the pain that I already have, which is, you know, suffering abuse while surrounded by family. So she wanted further shit on me, and she did. And we can all see that she did, and I accept it. I accept it because I know that I can't always stop bad things from happening to me. So she wanted to shit on me, and she did, and I accept it. But I'm going to use this as an opportunity to help a victim of abuse out there who also has a narcissistic family member, who will want to manipulate them into staying silent, who will want to further abuse them and make sure that they stay silent, and to crush their self-esteem so that they never ever ever speak out. And so I must speak out. I might cry after this video, but for right now I must speak out, and I must expose this, because these tools are well used. Like, this is script nile mota. So anyway, I hope this reaches the right audience. I hope this helps some victim of abuse somewhere overcome their narcissistic family member and rise up and speak for themselves. Yeah, that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. For more content like this, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.